Welcome back everyone. So in this episode we're going to start painting in the background of our snake. So this is what we are going to need. I've pre-mixed in my wet palette the following colors. Let me share with you guys. So you can use a light gray, and this is just going to help you get a little bit more of a neutral tone. And I'm going to show you guys how to mix your own light gray if you can't find it, or if you don't have it at hand. So for that you will need titanium white and your Mars black, or whichever black you are painting with. And then I've also dispensed a little bit of violet, permanent violet. You can also use dioxazine violet. And I also have my phthalo blue here. So this is what I've dispensed in my wet palette. So first off, let me show you guys how you can mix your own light gray. So for that you're going to need your black and your white. And I've already dispensed the light gray here. So that's going to give us a very good sort of gauge to see that we mix it correctly. Let me activate my brush and get it clean so that I can show you guys how to mix this color. Alrighty. So to make a light color, you're going to definitely need the titanium white. So I'll load my brush with a bit of titanium white and just get it activated. And then I will start with small additions of the black, because remember your black is quite potent. And I will add it to my mixture until I get my light gray color. Just mix the two together. We're almost there, a little bit more. So this grey with the Mars black will be slightly different in tone than the light grey that I've got out of the tube there, because I don't know what they used, what pigment they used to create the light grey. But there we have it. It's pretty much a match as far as value is concerned. So we're going to use this light grey, and what we're going to do is we're going to add the tiniest amount, but almost too much, like that of a pin of the blue. Remember, phthalo blue is quite potent, so I want you rather to be in control of how much blue you add to your grey, so that it doesn't start looking like a light blue. Because the color we're going to paint now is basically the skin color of the snake, and it's sort of in the gray violet bias. So I'm going to add a little bit of the violet as well, making it a very soft, neutral, blue, purple, gray. That's sort of where I'm aiming at. And you can add a drop of water. I'm just looking at my snake, and I think we're pretty much at a good place there. So that is how I will mix this color. If you have to start from scratch, if you do have a light gray at hand, you just have to add a little bit of the blue and the violet. But I'll play with these mixtures as we go. So I'm thinking that this brush will do well as well. This is a bright square brush, and this is my number 10. But like I've said so many times, the numbers mean absolutely nothing if you don't have exactly the same set as me. That's why I'm showing you the brush. So it's roughly about one of my nail sizes. So I would say it's about a 1/4 inch. Right. So now we're going to look at our snake, and what we're going to do is we are just going to bring in a bit of color in the sections, and just do it mindfully, so that we, especially when we start going into these horizontal ridges of the throat of the snake. So let me start here on this side, and I'm just going to use the corner of my brush to go around some of these areas that I've pre-marked with my charcoal. And you can even leave little gaps in between that. It doesn't have to be completely filled up. We are just going to start to bring the snake forward out of the nebula. But I do want to keep some of the line work so that that can support the creation of this snake. This is a good exercise. I know I did start here with the tightest area in my painting. So if you feel that the brush is too big for you, you struggle to paint on the corner of the brush, then switch to a smaller brush that you're comfortable with. But I sort of like to work with a brush that's a little bit almost too big for this exercise. It keeps me mindful, and I really just want to bring in a little bit of this color in some of these sections. I'm working around the nostril there, and I'm also working around the eye casing. And it's okay if you go over the line, people. Give yourself a little bit of grace. It's not the end of the world, because we're going to bring this all back now. We're just working in those ridges over the nose area. Nice. That's the flattest part of it. Right. Let's get into an easier zone. I mean, that was almost the hardest bit here. I'm going to go for this part of the cobra that is the head. And I'm going to start in my region here close to this throat bit. Add a drop of water. If your paint gets dry, I've got an air conditioner running in the studio, so I might have to add a drop of water sooner than you, depending on your environment. Now, the nice thing about a bright is if you work on the toe of the brush, you are able to do very precise line work with that. We're going to go to the side of the bottle. There we go. And we repeat it on the other side as well. Leaving that little ridge where the mouth is, coming down. You can do your line work like that as well, just to give yourself an indication of where you're going to be painting, and then just fill the zone up. Don't worry about any of the detail that you are seeing on the image, because we're not there yet. We're not going to paint detail right now. I just want to bring in some of this color. Now, when you have a large area to paint like this, this is where it's nice to get into your pre-mixed gray color. I've made it almost a little bit too purple there. Let's mix a little bit more. I'm sorry, I hope you guys can see my mixture here on the side. So it's very close to what I had. I think I'm going to add a little bit of my white again. It doesn't have to be exact, because there's a few layers more that is going to come over on top of that. Right. Okie dokie. Now that we've done the side of the cobra's throat here, I'm going to come in and do these horizontal ridges. Now I did draw in a few more than is required, so I'm going to have to make each of my ridges a little bit thicker, especially here in the middle where I made them a little bit too small. Now please, again, do feel free to switch to another brush. I just want to fill in these little shapes. And I'm just dancing on the corner of my brush here. Ignore everything about the bottle. Just work around the bottle. Here I'm going to have to start to adjust my design. And remember they're slightly curved like a smile. So do remember a little bit of that curvature. It's going to make your life a bit easier later and give that realism to your shape. Over the cork of the bottle. So leaving those little gaps in between each segment, if you could, is going to help you later to just bring back that line work. And it's also a very good exercise in mindfulness, isn't it? We're not going to rush through the job. Enjoy every part of the process. And if you find it difficult to paint around the tongue, it's such a small detail, you can always paint it in later. So if it's easier for you to fill each of these lines all the way, please go ahead and do that. It's absolutely fine. There we go. Isn't it amazing how much it already brings everything forward? Right. We're making good progress. These things tend to go faster than you think. Now let's look at the actual body of the snake. And again, I don't want you to worry about any of the detail, any of the shadows, or of the light reflections. Just look at the basic shape of the snake's body. So it connects here next to the bottle. And I'm just going to use my brush and come around. Nice. And let's just give the snake's body some presence. One of the things that I've learned as an artist, I've taught myself how to paint, is I've learned to look absolutely what the toe of my brush is doing as it's making contact with my surface. How hard are you pressing? Are you just on the toe, or are you pressing down? What are you doing with your brush? And I always sort of wanted to see what's left behind from the brush, but now I've learned to really pay attention to where the brush is making contact with the surface that you're painting on, and to really follow that with your eyes and be very mindful with it. Let's round that off nicely, looking at the outline. So it's in areas like this where there's this contrast between what you're doing now and what we did before, where I really pay attention to the line that is left behind with my paintbrush. I'm leaving this shadow this little space here is a little bit bigger in the reference material, so I'm leaving that gap there because it's going to help me to understand later what am I busy with. Let's go for the second round. This is coming down quickly like so, and I'm going to leave a little gap now between the top and the bottom. This space looked so small before I started to fill this in. I mean, just look at the the right part of this painting compared to the left, where we're bringing in this opaque color. It immediately fattens it up a little bit, so it doesn't feel so thin and, what's the word? Like the snake needs to eat something. I'm going to come from the other side. And focusing on the top part of my brush so that I leave that little gap. It doesn't have to be big, but it just reminds me of where the separation between these two shapes is. Sorry. Fantastic. Now I'm looking at the part of the snake that you can see through the bottle here, and I notice that the cork is coming down till about here. So I'm just going to make myself a line because I didn't draw that in. So this little shape of the throat of the snake is visible through the bottle. So we're going to draw it in. I'm just going to give myself that little angle of the cork coming down into the bottle. Now it's all details that can be fixed later, so please don't panic if you by accident paint over it. And then there's this little bit still visible above the elixir surface. Just filling in the corner. So it's behind the bottle, so it's definitely still there, but we don't have to worry about too much detail of that. I'm just going to fill that little corner and that little corner, leaving the outline of my bottle intact. So if anything looks wonky, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. It's just one of the layers that we're going to be painting. And in fact, before you realized it, it's already over. I absolutely love that. Right, I'm going to take a very small round brush. Let me just get here's one. This is a number 2 artist round brush. So it's got a small fine tip, but it's not too fine. I'm going to dip into my Mars black here and just roll my brush. I did activate my brush with a bit of water because I just want to come in and just bring in some focus areas of the eye. And again, I'm leaving the outline intact to to make sure that the little detail that I'm putting in is in proportion, a little bit smaller than the drawing, because it gives me space for some detail around the eye and so forth. Let's do in these little nostrils. This side one is slightly at an angle like that. On the toe of my brush, bringing in a little bit of detail. And up here is the other one, pointing towards the eye, coming down like so. And then also I'm gonna come in around the tongue and just fill in this little gap so that I can see where the mouth is. Now if your paint gets sticky, remember, add a drop of water. I need it to just see where the mouth of the snake is, and it goes all the way. It feels almost like it's going into infinitum ad nauseum. Just want to connect that space. Then it's going to be much easier to see our detail. There's some vertical lines like that. And again, this can be refined as we go, so please don't put too much pressure on yourself. There we go. That already feels a lot better for me. I just needed to see where those focus points are, and then we'll take it from there with the detail. I don't want to run away from you, so I'm going to do it in short little steps. I'm picking up my grey mixture again with my round brush, because this bottom part of the mouth is very fine. Roll your brush if the paint is too thick, and just bring that little connection in there. If it means you have to go back into your little black line that you just did, that's also okay. I made it a little bit lighter so I can see it. That's already very, very, very helpful. That's all I need you to do for today's class, is just block in your snake, playing with greys that is infused with a hint of violet and blue. And that's just going to give us the background upon which we're going to play with some beautiful colors, and we'll take it from there. So I want you guys to catch up with me, and remember to take a photograph of your progress art and share it with me on the Patreon group, or also on the Facebook group, The Creative Heart. They both have the same title because it's, for me, the same energy and intention. And it would be lovely to support you. And it's nice to see how people make progress with each of these little baby steps that we take, that in the end creates the painting that we are working on. This is an absolute reflection of life. Life happens one day at a time, one choice at a time, small action steps at a time. It doesn't happen in once. It's not an instant world. It's not McDonald's. So I'm encouraging you to enjoy the process, enjoy every brush mark, because each brush mark will contribute towards the final result. So enjoy it. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye bye for now.